Hello everyone and welcome to Passionate Marketers Philly webisodes. Today our topic of discussion is video trends of 2019, and with me I have two experts in the video space. I have James Madison from Expressway and I have Zach Medina from Viral Ideas Marketing. Welcome guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Let's start with you guys tell us about yourself and a little bit about your businesses. Zach, you want to go first?
Yeah, so Viral Ideas is a corporate video solutions company. We started about 4 years ago. We provide three things: standard video production for corporates, and then video editing, and then video training. So we basically come in and teach people how to get up and running in-house for their video.
Great, and I hear that you have done more than 800 videos already. So.
Yeah, we actually just surpassed 1,500 videos.
Oh
yeah,
wow, this double of what I remember.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
It's been a fun 4 years.
That's a nice ramp up.
Yeah. Well, a big thing for us is the editing side. So basically people send us their footage and then we edit it. So we're able to crank out tons and tons of videos per month. So
Pretty awesome. James, you've been doing this for a very, very long time.
Yeah, so we're actually a support company for production companies like yours. We provide equipment rentals and logistics, crew, staffing, consultation. We provide studio space. So we have one commercial studio space for multimedia, like advertising style commercial studio, and we're developing some new photo studios, and we have a small photo studio in our facility right now.
Awesome, and you guys made it to the Philly 100 as well. Congratulations on that.
We did, thank you, yeah.
It's awesome. So before we come to video trends for 2019, let's talk about 2018 and what happened there. I know IGTV came out and Facebook Watch became global, but what were the big trends according to you guys? James?
So I mean, a lot of the stuff that is coming out right now is in line with what's been happening. It's a really exciting time for cinema and video technology in general, as big ideas are becoming more and more accessible. So with the television formats, new 8K TVs, like more accessible. Like crazy inventions are coming out with CES. The camera technology and lighting is also trending in that direction to support that. So you have more accessible, lighting units, more output, more higher resolution cameras, all just sort of shrinking down into a smaller, more physically accessible format. More affordable formats as well. So you're sort of cutting out a lot of the bulkier, more expensive aspects of filming and video production, and starting to package things into formats and form factors that can really give filmmakers like yourself more opportunities and more capabilities to do bigger and more exciting things.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing is that technology is becoming a real enabler here and making things easier for video shooting, and I mean, we are shooting this on our iPhone here. So yes, definitely, I see your point. But Zach, what do you think? What were the big trends according to you?
yeah, I mean, kind of like what you were saying is that it's becoming more accessible, which I think is awesome. And the other benefit is our data speeds are increasing, right? So now we have like 5G, some LTE, some crazy data stuff that we have, and most of us have like unlimited data. So it allows us to consume more content daily. And the more and more people are becoming like their own personal brands. And how do we do that? But the most authentic way is to do it through video, right? It's very authentic, it's very natural. It's easier to kind of understand someone's vibe through video versus just a phone call or writing it down. So
interesting. So I think what you're saying is that the holy grail of one-to-one interaction, of in-person interaction, is becoming more and more viable, and thanks to the unlimited data speeds. That's a great point. So let's talk about 2019. I know CES already happened and we'll come to that, but what about video marketing? How's social media changing video marketing today for your clients?
yeah, so I don't look at video as just a marketing tool. I look at it as marketing and even internal tool as well. So for example, we're seeing a huge trend towards recruitment videos. So it's actually more cost effective for someone to produce a video for recruitment reasons and create a culture video to get in new talent. We're also seeing a huge trend towards the push of what I like to call like value add videos. So something like this where it's not necessarily a commercial per se, but it's people putting out daily pieces of content that are very valuable that they can consume in 1 minute or less, that's helping you build that connection with you and the actual company. So, and then the last thing I would say is the captioning. 90% of people actually don't listen to what they're on social specifically. So when a lot of people are either on a train, in the car, flying, whatever, they're scrolling through it seconds, right? So they're capturing people through the visuals at first, and they're actually following along with these value-add videos through the captions, right? I find it's really interesting on Instagram and Facebook.
Interesting. So, do you think that sets apart YouTube as a platform compared to Facebook or an Instagram, where audio is not on by default, but that's not the case in YouTube? Are your clients using these three platforms differently?
Yeah, I mean, all the platforms, in my opinion, are completely different animals, right? It used to be we just produced for the TV, right? For the Super Bowl ads, it was just produced for TV. Now it's how do we produce something for YouTube? How do we produce something for Facebook, for Instagram stories and whatnot? So YouTube's great because they're owned by Google. So what's some of the most trending things beside cat videos are how-to videos, right? How do I set up my camera equipment? How do I do this? And then let's say you're doing with James, he says how to set up a camera equipment or something like that. By default, you're building a connection with James, and you'll trust him to go to him to rent equipment from him versus go to someone else because you've watched hours of footage of him showing you how to do something.
Makes sense. Interesting. So, James, in your production facilities, are you seeing usage by companies who are producing social media videos? Or
yeah, well, I think what's really exciting about this kind of convergence of like bigger ideas and more accessible technology is that and something that Zach's company does really well is provide the value that you're talking about, not just from like an amount of content standpoint, but also from like a production value. And so so there is a breadth of content that is of value, but a lot of companies now are able to have a higher standard for what that should look like, or how they're presented. Wherein, internet video used to be synonymous to like low quality content, and that was how it was budgeted as well. Wherein the divide between sort of social media content and like these Super Bowl commercials, which is sort of like the crown jewel, right? That void is becoming smaller and smaller. You're seeing internet content have a higher value of visual quality, which is really exciting that you couldn't do before. So the budgets aren't changing as much, although they are, because advertising on the internet is becoming more, people are starting to, we know, but like, big corporations are finally being like, oh, there is a value to this. And so the budgets are becoming higher, but at the same time, you're able to do more. So there is a level of value add to internet media because you're able to put more on it. So we were talking about like, unlimited bandwidth and stuff like that. Like we couldn't have even used that 5 years ago. What would have been the point? Because for the budgets, you couldn't have produced anything to warrant it. So now you can create these 4K, 8K videos. Not that anyone's streaming 8K, but you can still produce it in 8K. So now you have a spot that can be on TV. You can do a 30-second version that lives on Facebook or Instagram, or a 5-minute version that lives on YouTube that can be streamed in 4K. So the convergence of these abilities to create higher quality content at a lower cost point, or more accessible cost point for production companies, is creating this sort of wealth of like really amazing content that Zach and companies like his are able to produce for companies. So now you're seeing not the Super Bowl commercial, but they have the TV commercial, and it's not just planning for one or the other. It's like, we're going to shoot this thing. How do we break it out to be a TV commercial? Also a Facebook spot, also a YouTube spot, and something for our website. So there's so much more value that's accessible in the way things are being produced now, and the ability to produce them that is exciting.
Interesting. So you touched on 8K and 4K a little bit. Let's talk about the technology and the equipment trends which allow that. How has the consumption change of the material or the production equipment which your company rents out or facilitates? Are people only renting equipment which will shoot in 4K now? Is 1080p obsolete, or will it go obsolete?
No, I think there's still a world where there's still a price point to shooting in 4K and 8K that's never going to go away, because hard drive space. If you shoot in 8K, you have to be budgeting for a ton of hard drive space. You also should be planning to not shoot as much if you have a lower budget, that kind of stuff. So there are certainly considerations, but one of the most underrated things about content production right now is the lighting aspect of it. To like really produce high quality content, you have to light something. You have to light it well. Now, cameras are becoming more sensitive to light and stuff like that, lower price points, so you can do more with less light, but you still need to light it well. And to light a room, like a whole room, used to cost, like a lot of money. To have larger units that could fill a space, you might actually start running into power issues, so you might need a generator or generators, a larger crew to run power, a larger crew to set up lights, and now things are this size and they're doing the same output, and you can plug them right into a wall, and you still have power to spare. So you could just do so much more with so much less that allows you to be more flexible and do more. I mean, I feel like I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but that's like where everything's trending, so it's hard not to touch on.
I see your point. What about, Zach, from your side? Are clients asking for 4K and 8K videos?
It's interesting. So a lot of times people, I don't know if you've dealt with this, a lot of people don't necessarily ask for a certain 4K, 8K, 1080p. For them, video is video.
Okay.
Which, it's kind of our job to educate them on what the differences are. But the biggest trend that I can say that we've been seeing in demand for is when we started, let's say 4 years ago, it was us saying, you should really produce some video content. You should really produce video. It was like, all right, we'll see if it's in the budget. The following year, it was like, okay, this is starting to make sense. I'm starting to see that it's prioritized by Facebook. This year, it's been like, we're behind. Like we should probably do more video content, because I see it being top down. The top brands, the top influencers, whether it be Gary Vaynerchuk or Dan Locke and guys like that, they're producing content and video content every single day. So we start seeing the power of that, and now small companies up to large companies are demanding video content in 2019.
Yeah, I totally went off base, and I think I rambled on, but there's definitely a place for not 4K. Was how I started. I started that whole rant, because you do have to be careful because there are associated costs.
No, but today, we are talking about trends, and that's an upcoming trend. So it's very important for our audience to understand that what it takes to shoot a 4K video or produce a 4K or 8K video. So I love the points you made, and that brings me to my next point. CES just happened a few weeks ago, and I'm sure there are other conferences, events which influence the video trends. Can you talk a little bit about those, and what is the impact they create on the industry as a whole?
For me, for professional cinema grade video production and what our clients are doing, it's just every year it's such leaps and bounds anymore that it's it's really exciting. It's also really difficult to keep up with sometimes, and from a rental house standpoint, from a service provider, you have to be really careful about what you're getting into. It's really exciting stuff, but everything's changing so rapidly that CES is really the kickoff point. I don't follow CES as much because it's all over the map. Really exciting conference, but we start looking towards NAB and stuff like that, like more broadcast related specifically, which we attend every year. So that's in April.
Okay.
We send. I was gonna go this year, but I'll be at a film festival. So. But we're sending our team, so we'll be there. Expressway Cinema Rentals will be at NAB. Keep an eye out.
And any other such events you would advise marketing guys to keep an eye on when it comes to video trends?
I mean, CES definitely. Cinegear. I'm just more if you're in marketing and you're in advertising, CES is definitely something to keep an eye on, and I should keep a closer eye on it. But we're definitely more targeted. My chief technology officer, I'm sure, is up on everything that's happening right now. I'm more the ramble on guy in webinars type deal.
So, Zach, you and I were talking about South by Southwest.
Yes.
What is the impact of that on video and your business as a whole?
Yeah, so we're really excited. So South by Southwest is early March, the interactive one. We don't go to the music one, but so what I'm super excited about, I don't know if you kind of see it too, is the dynamic movements, without getting too nerdy about this, but the dynamic movements that we're being able to see that almost anybody can do. through things like the DJI Osmo and whatnot, where it's a more accessible way to produce content that, like you said, we're filming this with an iPhone, right? Which there's time and places for everything. So there's a time and place to really showcase your brand at a super high level with cinema grade content. But then let's say you're a vlogger, right? A vlogger used to have to carry around a big DSLR with all this setup. Now with the DJI Osmo something, I forgot the exact name, they're carrying it around with in the palm of their hand, which I think is so fascinating to kind of see the advancement in the short number of years.
Yeah, in terms of these trends and everything getting smaller, when we started our company, we started it because we wanted there to be, we say, build a better industry by building better infrastructure, and that's our mantra. So when we started, we really wanted to create something here that made creativity accessible, and that's still our goal. And at the time, people used to ask me about producing content, and I would say one of the biggest things was to just do it.
Yeah.
But at the time, that was easier said than done. But I still stand by that. There's never going to be a good time, and you'll never have enough money, and the circumstances will never be perfect. But you have to just do it. You put yourself out there and just create. Now there's almost no excuse not to.
Right.
There's so much that is available and so many ways you can go about it. And I mean, the images you can get on your phones, I don't necessarily advocate for that because I feel like I don't know that it's there yet, but I feel like for certain content you totally could. And people do create great content on their phones, but you just create. I mean, that's the key.
That's a good segue into the next topic which I want to touch on, which is user behavior. Right? How is the user behavior changing or has already changed when it comes to mobile video consumption, desktop, and television? And how is it impacting video production as a whole, video equipment as a whole? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, at Viral Ideas and even Flixation, where we're just editing people's videos, but we're at least advising them, hey, here's the best way to kind of shoot your videos so that we're not shaky and miles away and we don't even hear them. But we study user behavior all the time. So it's how do we understand what someone's doing on Facebook, what someone's doing on Facebook Live, what someone's doing on Instagram Stories, and then how do we adjust content that way? I think the biggest thing for cinematographers and people producing content is the framing, right? It used to be 16 by 9, the regular size of a TV, it's how we saw it, right? And everybody would shoot that way because that's how we shot it on TV. Just like with the radio, you ever kind of watch the way in which a radio ad was produced versus when the TV came out, it almost looked like a radio ad, but it was but it was on TV. So what we're starting to see though is it become vertical. So when you're on Snapchat, when you're on Instagram Stories, when you're on Facebook, certain Facebook ads, it's vertical, and even square as well. So back to what I was saying with transcribing is we're seeing value-added pieces of content where they'll take this entire 30-minute chat, break it down into 1-minute segments, transcribe it because 90% of people aren't actually listening on social media, they're reading, and then making it into a square format so that it's optimized for your phone because most people are watching on their phone.
Interesting. How is it impacting the equipment rental? Do you feel like it has anything, it has changed anything at all?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
So the user behavior, people are consuming more and more content on the mobile devices and desktop compared to TV. And then the big screens are also becoming popular, right? Last night we watched the super boring Super Bowl on a 100-inch screen, right? So how is it changing the video equipment space?
I'm not sure because as accessibility becomes more frequent on smaller and smaller devices and smaller resolutions and formats and stuff like that, it seems to be coinciding with the camera technology getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think maybe where you're seeing the most impact there is in phones and stuff like that, where it's built in, and the technology to have better production quality in those formats is becoming more and more and more. So in terms of equipment rental, everyone's shooting for all of those formats. I mean, if you shoot a Super Bowl commercial that's supposed to be on 100-inch TV or whatever you said, they're still probably planning to shrink that all the way down to Instagram. And the technology to do that, just in post-production software, is becoming better and better. Just the processing, computers are getting more powerful, faster. Sharing that stuff online with the bandwidth, is becoming bigger and more. So, it just has this sort of broad kind of spider web effect. That the technology and accessibility is affecting everything, from camera formats all the way down to the screens you're watching them on. But in terms of rentals, we just keep the camera formats keep getting bigger. So I don't know.
Interesting.
But that's more almost like you're shooting video for print, like large print. But yeah, everything's planned to eventually get shrunk down to.
So it doesn't matter if the user is consuming most of the content on mobile. It is still being shot from every screen size. That's what I'm hearing from.
Yeah, I think so. I think, like I said, everyone can create now. So you are having more and more people who are owning and operating their own equipment to produce a certain level of content, and that's not necessarily affecting our rental market, but it is allowing more people to be more creative. So it's a really interesting time. It's hard to because everything's happening so rapidly, and that's exciting and scary at the same time. Where for a rental company, but it's hard to put a finger on how the small format is affecting our.
But even if you kind of look at what the Super Bowl ads, let's say they run it from you for some higher end Super Bowl ad, right? What's interesting is they're using those high-end cameras, but then they're still they're using that same picture they captured on the high-end camera and then still breaking it down into that social format. It doesn't necessarily change, I shouldn't say it doesn't change, it does change it slightly, but you can still tell it was shot on a better camera. It's just in a different position. It's like just adjusting, how are you going to, for a billboard, let's say, you're not going to have a piece of paper up on a billboard, you're going to adjust it to that billboard size, you're just shooting it with a different type of camera sometimes.
Yeah. And large format shrunk down does have a look. Like you know when
Facebook compresses your image.
right, yeah. So, but yeah.
So coming to the conclusion of the session, I got a lot out of this talk, and events to look out for: CES, NAB, Cinegear, South by Southwest, and what's important when you're creating video for social, transcribing. What would be your suggestions on takeaways for the audience? What to look out for 2019, and what is the must to do in 2019?
The must to do. Instead of kind of just totally just basing off trends, I really just look at user behavior. How are people consuming content? What is Facebook and all these top platforms prioritizing? And it is video. But then when you go a little bit deeper, it's, all right, but what types of content should I be pushing? And at Viral Ideas, we definitely create, let's say push content, which is more commercial based. But we're seeing more and more and more pull content, which is the value add pieces of content, which is stuff like this that you break down into short form and provide value to your viewer so then eventually, they may buy your product or service, but it's going to take a longer time, but you're at least building that connection with them. And the other thing I would say is, taking your pieces of content, adjusting it for that platform, and then, if it's something like this, transcribing it so that you're not missing out on that audience that may be on the train, maybe, God forbid, I hope they're not watching a video while driving, but sometimes, they're in the car, and they don't want to actually turn on the volume, so they just want to read along. Make the content for them, make it easier for them to consume.
What would you say, James?
For me, I'd say that I think as young filmmakers or starting filmmakers, like I said, you just need to create. That's the biggest thing, and there are a lot of great content creators out there right now, but I think a barrier to increased creativity sometimes is a feeling that you have to do it on your own, that you are limited to those things that are accessible to you as an independent owner-operator. And it seems maybe daunting or scary to approach a rental house or a community like that, wherein they really can be your best friend. At least at Expressway, we don't ever turn anyone away from consultation. We're happy. We want to know what you're doing. We want to hear about what's happening in our community and what's happening creatively in Philadelphia, and we want to help. And so we encourage people to come in and talk to us. I mean, literally to come in and talk to us about what they're doing, and that always results in like, you know, relationships that turn into something really creative down the road. I mean, it might be that you didn't realize that a certain technology was available to make your video better at a cost point that was accessible. Or you might not realize that what you thought was prohibitive in terms of a process to rent things isn't all that complicated. And just knowing like a network of people through a rental house like ours actually allows you to facilitate like more work, a bigger network, more people to pull from, higher quality of content, higher quality of resources, you know, at your fingertips. And we, you know, I highly encourage people to like get out and see what's available to you on top of what you're already, you know, you've bought or whatever. You know, it's really not as, I think, as daunting as people might think.
So essentially, you would say that use the community more in 2019,
Yeah.
Explore the new technologies and take advice from the community and experts before going out there and making videos.
Absolutely, and the fastest way I can think to do that is to come in and hang out at Expressway.
This was great, guys. Thanks for coming in and thanks for sharing great points, great wisdom with the audience. Thank you.
Absolutely, thanks, Zach.
You got it.
Thanks, Gaurav.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Becca, for helping us shoot this video, and thank you, SocioSquares team, for the edits and getting us this video out there. Thank you. Stay tuned for our next webinar. Thank you.